Hello folks, welcome to the first episode of Tweefers Tech. This is my first review and today we'll be looking at the Gamepad 2 by Archos. Some of you may be aware of the original Gamepad. It was a bit of a flop if I'm honest, for various reasons. Build quality, software issues. It had a few issues that were eventually resolved, but it has devalued because of the original issues, and I'm sure you can probably pick one up for about £50 or £60. Anyway, this is the Gamepad 2. You can clearly see it has improved vastly in terms of physical appearance. They've gone for a very flat PSP look slash tablets, nice simple black finish, and it's quite mobile as tablets go. This device is basically aimed at people that want to play emulators or games from the Play Store, as it is an Android device. It has the physical buttons, so if you have that frustration where you're playing games from the Play Store that have gamepad support, but you're playing them on touchscreen, this is the kind of device that you'd be looking at. It's also a tablet with Jelly Bean. It's a mid-range tablet. There are other tablets on the market that are a little bit better, but this does the job. Before we look at the actual device itself, we'll look at the specs. This is the packaging that you actually get with it. I've got the 8GB model. There is a 16GB apparently, but you are paying about £80 to £100 more. I don't really think it's worth getting a 16GB because it is very expensive. I paid about £140 to £150 for this on Amazon. With this particular one, you can see you've got the two freebies. Modern Combat 4 and Asphalt 8 Airborne. Obviously they are quite big games and they do take up a vast amount of storage. With the 8GB internal storage, you are restricted as to how many apps you can download, who are given the bloatware that is on there from Archos and Google. You can remove and delete some of the apps. You do have space for expendable memory. However, it does advertise that it plays up to, or it takes up to 64GB, as you can see down here. But I've had troubles using a 64GB. I'm currently using a 32. It doesn't seem to be any issues there. But maybe it's a software issue. It might be updated in a recent software update. You can see the specs here. I don't need to go through more. It's pretty straightforward. Quad-core processor with 1.6 gigahertz. The essential 2GB RAM. That you do notice a difference. And all the hardware that you'd expect. With the packaging, you get the adapter, the necessary USB charging kit, etc. But you don't get a case with it. I did get a third-party case. I bought one of these ones off Amazon as well, and I found because the actual device, even though it has a 7-inch screen, the actual tablet itself with the physical buttons, basically counteract a 10-inch tablet. So look out for a case that will cater for 10-inch tablets, and that will be suitable for protecting this device. So looking back at the actual handheld itself, you can see the analog sticks here. You've got the D-pad, 4 buttons, shoulder and trigger buttons on both sides. It's a standby button, the volume rocker. Over here we've got the mini HDMI port, which is a pardon me, a very useful feature. If you like to play your games on a big screen, it connects to your HD TV with no delay whatsoever. Very handy also for when you've got your streaming apps like your 4OD, your iTV player and iPlayer and all those things, Netflix, etc. Quite a handy feature. Obviously the very essential mini USB charger port. Over here is where you put the SD micro card. I've got 32GB in there at this moment, and it just pops in and out. Other than that, really, the backing is quite plasticky. I would have liked this to be a bit more rubberized, like the Nexus 7, the original one, which had quite a rubberized texture. That would make this a bit nicer to hold. Using this as a tablet, I think most of us prefer to hold it in the landscape mode. It's not the most comfortable thing, but it's not the worst. The resolution on this particular device are it's 1280 by 800, I think. Just double check. Yep. So the resolution is pretty good. But like I said, this is going to be aimed at people that want to play emulators and other games on the Play Store with gamepad support. So when we have a little open what we've got here, I've kept this very clean. Because I'm using this just as a gaming device. I'm using Apex Launcher. I've only got one home screen just to keep it nice and simple. And the only thing I've got here is a rotating dock with my streaming apps and essential apps that you need on a Google device. Because the Apex launcher, it allows me to rename the applications you can see here, and no discredit to the developers that I purchased these apps for. I just wanted to rename them just for my own purpose, really, just to make it look a bit more professional, so I hope they don't mind that. You can see here I've got all the essential apps of the Nintendo, Sega, Dreamcast, PSP, and Name Arcade. I haven't really tweaked the PSP and Dreamcast one yet, but I'll quickly show you how some of these emulators work. I'm not going to go into too much detail with the emulators because I'm here talking about the actual device. I'd be here all day if I looked at the emulators. But I'm going to use the analog stick to control the cursor around here. As you can see, it's reading it fine. The D-pad is working also. We'll start off with the NES emulator, and we'll just load something up quick. We'll try out the original Mario Brothers. Why not? As you can see, oh, died straight away. Clearly out of practice, but that works. There's no issue there. Quickly move on to the SNES. I'll type. Let's see. Obviously that's fine as well. I have to apologise for my poor gaming. I'm looking at the TV, not the actual device, so I'm getting a bit distracted. I'm not normally this bad, honestly. We'll skip over to the N64. Now I've literally just loaded these apps, haven't had a chance to really tweak them, so that's probably the reason for the lag. I'm sure these can perform better. I've just literally loaded them up. Oh, I better stop before I crash this thing. And what we'll do is we'll do a quick MAME arcade. I think this is the MAME reloaded one. Has to be Final Fight, really. And you know, playing these games on a quite lengthy basis, the battery is 5,000 millihertz, so that is more than suitable enough to play these games. And holding the device is absolutely fine. There are other devices that are a little bit more comfortable, but this is absolutely, I've got no issues holding this for up to a couple of hours. I could play that game all day long, but I won't. And we'll finish off. Where should we go? We'll check out the Sega one real quick. This particular one supports Master System and Mega Drive or Genesis. Also has support for Mega CD, but that's apparently at a trial stage. Why not a bit of MJ? God, I'm really out of practice. Shocking, shocking. Okay, so like I said, I won't go into PSP or Dreamcast. I've not really sort of configured that, but they do work. They do have gamepad support. And pretty much everything I throw at it that does have gamepad support will work. The other feature that's quite handy for games that you download on the Play Store that don't necessarily have gamepad support, you have this mapping tool. and basically you drag down the corresponding button to the button that you want to link to on the actual game. And I won't do that now, but I've done it with NBA Jam, which is the Play Store version, and that was a game that was only intended for touchscreen, but now I'm using the physical buttons for that, and it will work with other games as well. Obviously, the mini HDMI port is very handy for features like using YouTube, Netflix. SkyGo is very, Sky are very anal about HDMI support. They don't let you hook up any device via HDMI. It just doesn't work. But everything else works in terms of iPlayer, 4OD, and most of the famous or popular streaming apps that we all like to use. Now I've had this device basically since it came out. I've not played it as much as I'd like to, and it's not because I'm not happy with it. It's just this is kind of like a backup device for me. I have my Xbox and my streaming apps. I do like to play emulators, but I'm on my Xbox 360, most of the time. So this is kind of when I'm out and about, if I'm commuting, if I'm travelling, this is when I'm going to be using my device. Or if my wife is watching, I don't know, Made in Chelsea, and I don't really fancy sitting there watching that, so I'll probably bung this on and be a bit antisocial. But I have cut down a little bit. But it is ideal for you people out there who love their emulators and want a dedicated gaming device. The only alternatives that you would be looking at before making this purchase is maybe the WikiPad or the NVIDIA Project Shield. However, those devices are nice, but they are very pricey for what they are. Now the Project Shield is obviously very powerful, but I don't really fancy walking around with an Xbox controller with a 5-inch screen that flips out. It just looks a bit too bulky for my liking, and I'm not a PC gamer, so I wouldn't really use it to its full potential. The WikiPad's very, very bulky, but the tablet alone is very nice. It's quite highly spec'd. It's close to maybe the original Nexus, not the new one, so it's not a bad tablet. But the actual sliding controller that it comes with, albeit is a good idea, it's not mobile whatsoever. So out of all the devices, I would probably opt for this as a dedicated gaming device. Thanks for your time today. Feel free to leave some comments and share your opinions. Stay tuned, as I will be reviewing a new product I've received via Kickstarter, and that is the Phone Joy. That may be another alternative you might want to consider. But thanks again.